Hello everyone! Welcome to the Theories of International Relations course. We will begin with Chapter 1, Contending Issues and Major Theories in International Relations. In this chapter, we will first talk about major theories, then state-centrism and non-state-centrism, level of analysis and unit of analysis, epistemological debates, and lastly, ontological debates and postmodernist turn. Let's start with major theories. Studies in the field of international relations are taken into account by dividing the discipline into different schools. Indeed, realism, liberalism, and Marxism are the fundamental divisions which are very common in different studies. As it is understood from the classifications and conceptualization, they all set forth the different aspects of the similar approaches. According to the realist paradigm, nature of human has important results for the international politics. For realist scholars, human is naturally sinful, egoistic, interest-oriented, aggressive, and all the time power-seeking in character. Realists accept states as rational actors that behave in accordance with certain rules and national interests to realize their objectives and to sustain themselves through national capacity. In contrast to realism or conservatism, Wilsonian idealism depends on Kantian liberalism, and it emphasizes the enlargement of the rights of individuals as a main point of concern. On the other hand, one of the main premises of pluralism is that state is no longer the only actor. Rather, there are many political actors in international system which are known as non-governmental organizations or civil society organizations operating at local or international levels. For realist approaches, the states are rational and state interest is the basis for political process as well as military and security issues being main agenda of international relations. World society approach, which is also known as Kantian approach, doesn't only regard the nation-states and relations carried out by their official diplomats, but beside these economic, political, and social transactions which are not under the control of nation-states must be regarded. While realist approaches focus on the security problems of the states in the anarchical nature of the international system, and pluralists research on how to realize peace and cooperation in the face of multi-actors and their interdependent relations in terms of economic, political, and social fields, globalist approaches criticize the reasons behind the underdevelopment of third world countries. According to the Marxist theories focusing on explaining war and peace through economic reasons, war and conflicts emanate from contradictions of capitalism. Now we will talk about state-centrism and non-state-centrism. In the 1970s, a new paradigm debate emerged in international relations. This debate was a contention between state-centrism and transnationalism and non-state-centrism. Transnationalism as a new paradigm was encouraged by the developments such as the emergence of new actors, whereby state-centric approach lost its attractiveness. At the same time, new international structure demonstrated that old-fashioned approaches couldn't help to understand and explain new developments. The critics focusing on state-centric paradigm intensify as international relations get more transnational and the numbers of actors increase. Therefore, it is argued that the sovereign state is losing its decision-making power, and by inclusion of several non-state actors to the process, sovereignty of state is being discussed. As a matter of fact, debate about paradigm began in 1970s and intensified during 1980s and resulted with the contention whether international relations is a field of science or only a field of study. Let's move on to level of analysis and unit of analysis issue. Another contention in international relations is about the concepts of level of analysis and unit of analysis. The problems of level of analysis and unit of analysis shouldn't be per se considered without the exception of the debate on theory in the field. Both concepts are sometimes confused and used to place each other. Mostly, the intention of people using one of these concepts cannot be determined and understood. Concerning the level of analysis and unit of analysis debate, the former is related to the causes and the latter is related to the results. In other words, unit of analysis is a dependent variable, while level of analysis is an independent variable. Among the approaches or theories analyzing foreign policy at state level, classical realism, neorealism, game theory, theory of strategies, and some conflict theories can be counted. One of the important features of state-level analysis is to provide valuable opportunities to set forth the motivations and objectives behind the national policies. We also should talk about epistemological debates. In terms of theory of knowledge, in the history of philosophy or history of scientific thought, it can be stated that there have been three perspectives or three theories of scientific knowledge in order to answer the question, what is scientific knowledge? Among the theories of knowledge, empiricism as a way of reaching knowledge, the basic assumption is that true knowledge can only be acquired through senses and observations. Positivism, that denotes empiricism, referring to scientific method, was applied to philosophy by Saint Simon and further by Auguste Comte. It became a noun of philosophical movement. Finally, in 1920s, by Vienna Circle, logical positivism began to be known as logical empiricism and neo-positivism. Another epistemology is rationalism, which is represented by certain philosophers belonging to Cartesian schools such as Descartes, Leibniz, and Spinoza. Rationalism has adopted deduction as a scientific method that depends on the reason and intuition as well as a source of knowledge rather than observation and experiment. It is called a priori knowledge. According to this approach, nature is commanded by certain rules and laws, results of which could only be observed rather than themselves. Third epistemology besides empiricism and rationalism is pragmatism. Traditional pragmatism particularly depends on the views of American philosophers such as William James, Charles Peirce, and John Dewey. It, in fact, represents a midway approach between empiricism and rationalism. Before we end, we will lastly look at ontological debates and postmodernist turn. The major debates in the field have been first the debate between realism and idealism in the 1930s and 1940s. It then transferred itself to the debate of traditionalism and behaviorism in the 1960s, and finally to the one between positivism and postpositivism after the 1980s. All critical approaches to the international relations have identified themselves as post-positivist. Nevertheless, positivism is still heavily influential in the field of international relations despite the existence of post-positivist critics. So, this is the end of our program for Chapter 1 of the Theories of International Relations course. Goodbye and see you in our next program, Chapter 2.